Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Marriage and it's by user PureOrdinary59. My mother-in-law wants my toddler to call her mama and my husband doesn't have my back. I hate to come to Reddit with a personal marital issue, but I could use some reassurance that I'm not being wildly unreasonable here. My husband and I have a 17-month-old son, who is our first child and the first grandchild on both sides of the family. My mother-in-law spent a lot of time thinking of her grandmother name and eventually decided on Mama. This makes me uncomfortable as I am my son's mama. It feels like it's being taken from me and I don't want to share the title of Mama with a grandparent. I've expressed to my husband several times since his mom chose this name that I'm uncomfortable with it, and his response has been unequivocally that I am being unreasonable and I have to get over it. To further complicate the issue, our son has a pretty significant speech delay. He's not speaking at all, and his speech therapist mentioned this week that he needs consistency and calling his grandmother mama will be detrimental to his language development. It also further increases the importance of the word mama to me. When he finally says it to me, it will be such an incredible moment that signifies all the long and hard work I've put into helping him grow and develop his speech. Even after bringing the speech concern up to my husband, he still thinks I'm unreasonable and I'm on my own if I want to cause an issue with his mother. At this point, this is the most upsetting part, that I've expressed my feelings repeatedly and he completely dismisses them and doesn't have my back. I want to speak to my mother-in-law about it when I see her in person next, but I'm terrified of potentially blowing up our relationship and being left all on my own as the crazy daughter-in-law without my husband to back me up. Am I being crazy here? For reference, his family is not Hispanic or from the southern US or anywhere similar, where a grandparent mama is more common or accepted. He called one of his grandparents mama. It must not have bothered my mother-in-law, which is great for her, but obviously we are different people and I have my own feelings on the matter. I also am already in therapy for my people-pleasing tendencies and we have couples therapy sessions as well. Well, Opie, no, I don't think you're wrong or you're crazy. That is your name to your son, and your mother-in-law should just try to pick another one. But apparently, she won't. She's fixed on this one, and your husband is being no help. You also mentioned you have people-pleasing tendencies, which I would guess makes this thing a really big problem. Because really, the only solution I see here is you trying to assert yourself to both your husband and your mother-in-law. Maybe it's a topic you can bring up in couples therapy, that your husband should have your back. He is your husband, and him just kind of washing his hands of the whole thing. No, that's just not right. And maybe during your personal therapy sessions, you can ask your therapist if you guys could do some exercises or something that would help you have this conversation, asserting yourself with your mother-in-law and helping you prepare if your mother-in-law tries to refuse or tries to gaslight you or bulldoze you. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with her, but it's not cool that she's trying to take this away from you. So no, OP, I don't think you're crazy. I do think you have a husband problem, and I also think you should try to stand up for yourself. And what do you guys think? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what kind of advice they gave OP. Automatic Gazelle 74 says, "First, you're not being crazy. The professional speech therapist advised against it. Have you told your mother-in-law what is recommended? Granny is not mama. You are. She is being unreasonable. You mentioned you are in therapy for people-pleasing tendencies. Time to put some of what you have learned to work. Time to tell your marriage counselor your husband has no backbone with his mother." T Nanny says, "Mother-in-laws don't get to choose mama as their name against the mother's wishes, and weak husbands should not be allowing it. If he doesn't get his act together and rein her in, she will continue to overstep and he will continue to let her. You're not overreacting. This is the hill I would die on. Stand up for yourself firmly. This is unacceptable. I will not allow it. You fix it or I will, but if I have to, you won't like how I do it." The problem with people pleasing is everyone gets to be happy except you. No one cares if you light yourself on fire to keep them warm. If your therapist doesn't back you up, find a new one. And Anteater 3100 says, so teach your son a different name for your mother-in-law. She can want to be whatever she wants, but sometimes kids assign names. You could be petty and make it very official, Mrs. Mother-in-law's last name, or make it a nickname like Lo. It's your heifer. Correct that kid every single time to the name you or your child pick. Correct mother-in-law every single time, and correct dad every single time. Your mama now. Shine up your spine. Not only is it a preference of yours now, but his speech therapist said it'll developmentally delay him even further. So it's medical now. Stand up for what you feel is right, even when you're the only one. Also, you grew him. You are the mama, the only mama that matters, regardless of what someone else thinks. Make a game out of her BS. When she comes home to mama, prompt your husband to answer. Oh babe, your mom is calling you. Looks like she wants you to sit on her lap. Puzzled look. Oh mother-in-law, I'm sure my husband is mostly potty trained. He doesn't need your help cleaning up after a good poop. Show them both how ridiculous they are. Maybe embarrass them a little or a lot. Question her memory, having her get checked by the doctor for forgetting she hasn't been pregnant recently. Her kid there is a grown man with a kid. You aren't blowing up the relationship. Her baby rabies is blowing it up. And your husband being a mama's boy is blowing it up. My kids have an O. She goes by Papa. My friend is a Lily. She wanted an old-fashioned grandma name like Mama, cause she's embracing the fact she's a grandma now. Nope, kids decided Lily it is. Opie's edit. Thanks for the replies and giving me the courage to have this conversation with my mother-in-law. Confrontation is so hard for me, but I'm going to do my best. My relationship with my mother-in-law is otherwise great and I love her a lot. She's not the overbearing type at all, so this is totally out of left field. Yes, she wants it pronounced like regular mama, not mama or mima. I have overheard her babbling mama to my son and explicitly saying, I want him to say my name first, but she's not overbearing. She's bought mama apparel and mama jewelry and other such things that I have thought are clearly meant for new mothers. It's overall wildly inappropriate in my opinion, and I'm so confused where this is coming from. But I will set the boundary that this isn't okay. The larger issue is that this is just another instance in our marriage where I don't feel my feelings are respected. It's exactly what I'm in therapy for, learning to build my confidence and self-esteem and how to stand up for myself. My therapist agrees with me that this is a reasonable boundary, by the way, but I entirely shut down the idea of confronting mother-in-law at the same time because I was too scared. I've made a lot of progress since then though and feel more ready now. Getting confirmation here that I'm not crazy gives me the last push of confidence I need. But I'm really sad that my husband doesn't see it this way at all. I want a life partner who is my cheerleader and supporter, who is proud of me for making these changes and setting boundaries for the first time in my life, and it hurts that I don't have that. Typing all this out has helped me clarify why I feel the way I do, and I'll be talking some more with my husband before the conversation with my mother-in-law. I may show him the comments here if I have to. Thank you for confirming I'm not crazy. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not crazy and the mother-in-law is overstepping a major boundary and that OP's husband is basically useless and doesn't have a spine at this point. The good thing is that community apparently broke through to OP and she's got the confidence she needs to have this conversation. So let's move on to the update that is 8 months after the original post to see how this story ends. I posted last year about my mother-in-law choosing Mama as her grandmother's name, how wildly inappropriate I find it, and how my husband thinks I'm overreacting and doesn't have my back. He eventually told her that she needed to choose a new name as I am Mama in my son's speech therapy sessions. And their solution is that her name is now Mama Joe. As I mentioned before, I have overheard her say, I want him to say my name first. I don't want to give up Mama because he's going to say that before any other name, etc. multiple times. I feel like I'm living in crazy town and I'm going insane. This new name is literally not any different whatsoever, especially considering the justification of why she wants to be mama so badly. When my toddler finally says mama, he's 2 but speech delayed and can't make the M sound yet, it's going to be for me, his mother, and me exclusively. I've given up on trying to convince my husband to get on my side. I'm going to speak to my mother-in-law directly next time I see her in person. But it's going to be a big blow up, and I'm really upset my husband still cannot see why my feelings are hurt by this. I think more than anything else, this has become a massive marriage issue between us. He has a habit of often invalidating my feelings and telling me I'm overreacting, and to be fair, I am a very sensitive person. But this situation has proven to me that even if I'm being the most reasonable person in the world, he still will consider it overreacting. I was reminded of the period of time when we lived with my in-laws, and the way my mother-in-law spoke to his sister during arguments was nearly verbatim the same way he diminishes my feelings. It was a huge light bulb moment for me at the time when I realized he was just copying what was modeled to him, and I've totally forgotten about it until now. His brother has also had arguments with his mother so bad that he was no contact with my in-laws for a bit. I can't think of a single time my husband has ever had an issue personally with his mom in the 15 years we've been together, but he also never talks about his feelings and keeps everything inside, so that's another problem in and of itself. Anyway, I'll finally stand up to my mother-in-law myself, but I just wish my husband had my back. I'll update when this is done. Opie's update. Here's an end to this saga. Mama Joe is now Nana. My husband messaged her saying the speech therapist says she needs to pick a new name. I followed up with a video chat saying that it's not really about the speech therapy, it's about me and how I feel about it, and she was totally understanding. So, problem finally solved. It just took me 2 years to grow a spine. As far as the comments calling for divorce, blaming me for being in an awful marriage, etc., yes, I'm aware of my massive self-esteem issues. Thank you for lighting a fire under my butt to at least resolve this finally. I'm in lots of therapy to undo my people-pleasing personality. I'm a major work in progress. We're in marriage therapy to navigate the issues that have come up after 15 years of me sweeping my feelings under the rug. Our marriage therapist has given a rough timeline of when I should reconsider staying married if there's no change on his side. This is hard, but I am trying my best. Well, OP, it took you some time, but you were able to work on yourself in order to stand up to your mother-in-law and actually tell her that it's not about the speech therapist, it's about you. And apparently she respected that. Sure, there's still some work to be done, particularly regarding your marriage, but you seem to be on your way and you have a timeline and a decision to make if nothing happens. So all that is left to say is wishing you the best for the future, OP. Hopefully everything works out for you. Take care and thank you for sharing. Now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user CuriousStepdad1234. Am I the a-hole for taking my stepson on outings without my son? I, 38 male, have a son and a stepson who are both similarly aged. My son Mark, 15 male, and stepson Luke, 14 male. Mark was defiantly a mama's boy, and unfortunately his mom, my wife, died when he was 8. It's been a huge struggle raising him, especially since he has completely different interests to me, which is completely fine, but makes things difficult. Someone who has been a great figure in his life is my sister, his Aunt May, as she is really into the same interests as Mark, and they have a great time whenever she babysits. A few years ago, I met my girlfriend Laura, 37 female, who was a single mom since Luke's dad was never in the picture. Me and Luke actually really hit it off since Laura introduced me to him. He never really had any male role models since Laura only had sisters and her dad died when she was a teenager. He's also into a lot of the same stuff I'm into, which is where the conflict started to arise. I've tried a couple of times to take Mark to football matches, but he just doesn't have any interest in it. So May looked after Mark when I'd go to football games a couple of times a year. However, Luke was incredibly excited to go to games with me, as he's never been before but is a big fan. Recently, May spoke to me in private and said that Mark was incredibly jealous of Luke spending time with me alone. She asked that I not go to a Formula 1 event with him next weekend. I asked Mark if he wanted to go, but he had no interest in it. They both are really good friends, but Mark felt like I loved Luke more than him, which admittedly broke my heart. Even though he doesn't go to football with me, I still make sure to take him to things that he'd enjoy, such as West End shows and concerts of his favorite singers. I said to May that although I understand and try to speak to Mark, it would be incredibly unfair to Luke to stop taking him out and to not take him out next week when he's been excited for it for so long. May said that I need to put my own son first and that I was damaging my relationship with him. Those words have kind of cut deep, and I was wondering, am I the a-hole? Well, OP, in the beginning while reading your post, I was thinking, yeah, OP, you are the a-hole. You're supposed to take an interest in things your son likes and not expect him to just take interest in yours to have a relationship. But then you mentioned that you also do things that interests Mark. So my guess is that when you do things that interest you with Luke, you're way more engaged than when you're with Mark. I would think that maybe while you're with Mark, you're constantly looking at your watch, or you're not paying attention or asking questions. It's not just about sitting with Mark through whatever he likes, it's about taking an interest in what he likes. And that would be my only question. Do you do that? Do you take an interest? If you don't, then yeah, you're an a-hole. And if you are trying to take an interest but aren't just able to do it right, ask Mark to teach you about the things he loves and why he loves them. That kid wants a relationship with his dad. Don't deprive him of that just because you might not be interested in what he likes. And what do you guys think about OP's situation? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments. A bunch of consonants and 2 vowels says, "You're the a-hole. Just love your son for who he is, damn it, before he realizes that you care more about your stepson and his hobbies than him." Civ Mom says, "Oh my god, find things your son likes and go do them. Read about them. Find out how to enjoy them. The point is to spend time with your son doing things he enjoys, not demanding that he enjoy your activities in order to get time and attention from you. You're the a-hole." As Nicolexo says, "I think you need to listen to your sister and start putting your son first. In your own words, you don't match his energy for his interests. Instead of the Formula 1 event with Luke, I suggest spending some one-on-one time with Mark. Go out for dinner or a weekend vacation. If you don't start putting your son first, you're going to have a strained relationship once he hits adulthood." Edit to add, "You're the a-hole, but you have the opportunity to redeem yourself now that you know how your son feels." Okay, so the majority of the community agrees that OP is the a-hole in this situation. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. First of all, I want to thank everyone who gave comments. I felt some of the comments and messages I received were judgmental and hurtful, but accepted that most people seemed to think I was the a-hole in the situation, so rather than defend myself, my priority was to make things right with my son Mark. I spoke to him and opened up by telling him how much I loved him and how I wouldn't change anything about him, and that he inherited all of the qualities I loved so much about his mother. He seemed pretty confused when I said that and said he really appreciated it but asked where it was coming from. I told him that I heard that he was getting jealous about the time I was spending with Luke one-on-one, and that I'd hate for him to think or feel that I was abandoning him by spending time with Luke. He then had a bit of an embarrassed look on his face and reassured me that he didn't feel abandoned or jealous of Luke. I then mentioned how May said otherwise, and he then visibly cringed. He then told me that he was jealous, but of me rather than Luke. That he thought Luke was incredibly nice to him when they first met and was really excited to have a friend like him since most of his friends through his school and clubs are girls. That he'd like to spend more time hanging out just the two of them, but he's much interested in hanging out with me rather than him. I instantly felt relief about the situation and asked if he spoke to Luke about hanging out more, and he said that he hasn't, as he didn't know what to ask to do or to come across as weird. I asked what they both had in common, and he said they liked similar video games, music, and films and TV. So I offered to buy them both tickets to any upcoming film they'd both want to see, and that if there are any upcoming concerts or gigs that they'd want to go to, that I'd buy them the tickets if that's something they'd like. Mark was really happy at that suggestion, as well as Luke and Laura. Especially Laura, because Luke doesn't really have many friends, and she was really worried about how he would get on if there was any blending of families. So, turns out they were both wanting to be better friends with each other, but neither one wanted to express it out of fear of rejection from the other. Alright, well, I guess we were all wrong about the situation, and it was about the kids bonding better than just you with your son, which still is a valid point. But still, OP, it's good that you're trying to nurture that friendship. So on that note, here's wishing you, Laura, and the kids the best in the future. Take care and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.